Do you know how many people don't know what a speech is? They think a speech is a speech, and a conversation is a conversation. Please, do not make that same mistake. It will change your world. When you discover they're actually the same exact thing, people treat speeches as speeches, and they change. Just like when they write a business letter or a professional email, their wording changes. You're wondering, what happened to my friend? Who's this person? Well, it's the same with a speech because they treat it as a speech. It's a conversation. No, it's a speech-versation. Treat it as a speech-versation. It's having a conversation with an audience, having a conversation with multiple people. There's no difference. When you treat it like a speech, you start using different words, and you start by saying, "Welcome to our course, and this is why we're here. We're going to learn such things as this, and here's what we're going to do." Scratch that. Who's going to listen? No. Talk like it's just you and me in the room. Let me show you how a speech is just like a conversation. I have a friend and he's a painter, and he needed to drum up some new business. He still has a good amount of business, but he wanted to get some more. So we had a conversation, and he said, the only time that I really have to go make sales calls is when it's raining, but I don't want to show up to the potential client while it's raining. How desperate does that look? Those were his words. Well, in my mind, I was thinking, actually, let's look at another side of this. There's usually always two sides to a story, and sometimes you can look at something in a completely different light. So I did. I thought about it, and I told him. I said, or you could look at it this way. You are busy, and the only time you can go make sales calls is when it is raining. You can actually show up and tell them what you just told me. You can say, "Hey, I'm usually really busy, but since it's raining right now, I can't work." The other thing about it is a lot of his clientele. Usually when it's nice and sunny out, they're busy. They've got a lot of customers. So when he would come in, it would be pretty busy, and he probably wouldn't get to talk to who he wanted to talk to anyway. But when it's raining out, well, then it's a good chance that the guy or girl he wants to talk to, their schedule's probably a little bit more open, and they're more willing to listen to what he has to say. See how a complete paradigm shift happened here. I explained it to him, and he said, that's a really great point. It got him thinking, and it got him motivated to take some action on it. This conversation is a speech. If we were to get up in front of painters and we were to tell them how to get new clientele, this is a speech. We'd say how it's really hard to find new clients, and are there any creative ways we can go about doing it? We can say, at first glimpse, there might not be many obvious ways to find new clients, but here's a way. Why don't you go when it's raining? You can't paint outside anyway, so that's a perfect time to go find new clients. And what you're telling them is perfectly true, and they'll agree with it. Yeah, it's raining right now. Normally you don't have time, but because it's raining you can't work. So this is a perfect time to talk to them. See how you can build that into a speech? That's a conversation. It's a speech-versation. Don't treat speeches like speeches. Don't think that you have to have this reasoning point, and then you have to connect this to this, and then you have. Don't structure it like that. Structure your speech like a conversation. Create speech-versation. They're the only way to go. You won't go back. When you give a great speech-versation, you can talk to 5 people or 500 people, and it's as if you're talking just right to them. But you might be saying, well, in a conversation, don't you talk back and forth? How do you do that with a speech-versation? I'm really glad you asked. Let's answer that for you. The way you do it is, you think about your audience. You don't think about what you want to say. Think about what they need to hear and what they might be thinking about. What questions are they going to raise? Think about them. What are they like? What are they going to ask? I just did it with this speech-versation that we're having. I was thinking, you might be thinking that? How do we talk back and forth if it's a conversation? So I thought about it, and I said, how can we answer that? We can answer that by telling you just how to do this. Think about your audience. Think about how to answer it for them. Come up with a story or an idea, a quote, a fact, or a statistic. Use that to answer it, and then make another statement. Ask another question, and answer it. Do you see how you can just keep doing this? That's how a conversation works. That's why somebody will come up to you after and say, it's just like you were talking to me there, because you were thinking what I was thinking. Now, you can't always think everything you're thinking. Remember that the words that you say, that come out of your mouth, they can only go so fast, and that your listeners, their minds, are way quicker. They're going to move ahead of you. But if you can answer some of their most important questions, the obvious ones, You build trust with them. You build rapport with them and you're having a conversation. Afterward, they can come up to you and ask you the extra questions. They could always email you later. You get the idea. Have a speech versation. Once you start speech versating, you're going to wonder why you never did it before. And you're never going to look at speeches. No way. You're going to have speech versations.